Hi, Peter.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. It's 7 o'clock. I do see a quorum present. We will confirm that at roll call, but you can proceed with tonight's meeting.
Thank you very much. And good evening and welcome to our meeting of Brampton's Planning Development Committee. We'll begin the meeting with the City Clerk calling the roll call for attendance at today's meeting.
Members of committee, I will call your name. Please indicate your presence. Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dillon, I don't see present. Councillor Singh.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Fortini.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Paleshi.
Present.
Councillor Willens.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Vicente.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Santos.
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Medeiros is present. 9 members are present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Does any member wish to add a business item to tonight's meeting? I see none, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Fortini that the agenda for the Planning Development Committee meeting of April 12th be approved. Is there anyone opposed? I see none. Our next item is declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Okay, I see none, so the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Our next item is consent motion. As part of our consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Our first item is staff report 7.1, application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw and proposed draft plan and subdivision 2640267 Ontario Incorporated, Westport Development, 10799 Credit View Road, Ward 6. In consent. Our next item is 7.2, staff report regarding application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, Weston Consulting, Black Creek Group, 2797180 Ontario Incorporated, Ward 2. In consent. Item 8.1, minutes, Brampton Heritage Board, March 22nd. In consent. Item 11.1, correspondence from Minister Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Phase 2 consultation on urban valleys to grow the Greenbelt. In consent. Next item 11.2, correspondence regarding Stop the Sprawl. John McCrae, co-chair, Echo Caledon, resident, date March 26th. Oliver Jeffrey Blakely, Brampton resident, dated April 2nd. Vicky Tran, Mississauga resident, dated April 3rd. Dr. Millie Roy, chair on behalf of Ontario Regional Committee, Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment, April 5th. And Dr. Gail Krattensberg, Douglas Markoff, McMaster University, April 5th. In consent. Item 11.3, correspondence regarding application to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw, Weston Consultant, Black Creek Group, Ward 2. In consent. And that is it. So I'll hand it over to you, City Clerk, to read out the items that are, I guess, not in consent, but you can just provide a summary.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the items not considered for consent is the statutory public notice item, which is 5.1 on tonight's agenda. And then we also have a possible delegations, although no one is registered to delegate, regarding a signed bylaw amendment, which is item 6.1, and the associated report 7.3. So at this point, through you, Mr. Chair, as we do not have any delegation requests for 6.1, if committee wishes to, they can add item 7.3, the signed bylaw amendment, to the consent motion as well.
Does any councillor would like to add that?
I'll add it to consent, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fortini is added to consent. So I don't see any further speakers. So I believe it's by recorded vote. So I'll hand it over to you, City Clerk, for recorded vote. A motion moved by Councillor Dillon to approve the consent motion.
Through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, I just need to confirm that Councillor Dillon is in the session. I don't.
Oh, my apologies.
Yes.
Happy to move it.
Is that Councillor Palashi? So Councillor Palashi then.
All members in favor of the consent motion or opposed, please indicate. Councillor Dillon is absent. Councillor Singh.
Yes, yes.
Councillor Fortini.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes.
Councillor Bowman.
Yes.
Councillor Paleshi.
Yes.
Councillor Willens. Councillor Willens.
Yes, Peter, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Councillor Vasante.
Yes.
Councillor Santos.
Yes.
Chair Maderos.
Yes.
That motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Now we go move on to statutory public meetings, and our first statutory public meeting is staff report 5.1, application to amend the zoning bylaw and proposed draft plan and subdivision, Redcliffe Homes, Johnny Del Deegan, Glenn Schnarr and Associates, Ward 10. So I will now hand it over to Stephen Dykstra, our planner from our Development Planning, Building and Economic Development Department. Welcome, Stephen.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair, committee members, and members of the public. This is an honor to be here present at the first hybrid meeting, both in person and virtually here. My name is Stephen Dykstra, and I'm the development planner assigned to this application. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide information and to seek public feedback on this application that was filed by Glenn Schnarr and Associates on behalf of Redcliffe Homes. Next slide.
Charlotte, you can go right to the item itself.
Okay, thanks. Here we are. This is the location of the subject property. It is located in Ward 10. It is east of Clarkway Drive, and it is also north of Castlemore Road. Next slide, please. Here we have an aerial image of it. The subject lands are surrounded by vacant agricultural lands, and they're located within area plan Area 47. These lands will either be developed or left in their natural state as part of Area 47. Next slide, please. Here we have the area context. The subject lands are highlighted in blue. The plan here provides or shows what's in the intended land uses are for the surrounding area. It also shows these lands are connected to the larger community that's planned for this area. Next slide. Here we have the proposal. So the applicant is proposing a development with 107 single detached dwellings, 76 townhouse residential units. There's a school block, a park block, stormwater management block. There's also a number of residential reserve blocks that are for townhouses in medium density areas. There's valley lands, associated buffers to those valley lands, and open spaces, and of course public roads and laneways to service this whole area. Next slide, please. This slide shows the official plan designation, which is designated residential, open space, and special study area. An official plan amendment is not required for this application. Next slide, please. Here we have the secondary plan, Area 47. It designates this area for low, medium density residential, medium density residential, special policy area 9, neighborhood park, valley land, stormwater management pond. And again, an amendment is not required for this, so an official plan amendment is not required. Next slide. Here we have the block plan. It identifies this area for low, medium density residential, medium density residential, a park, valley land and a vista block, an elementary school, and stormwater management block. Next slide. Here's the current zoning bylaw designation. It's identified as agricultural, which permits single detached dwelling as well as agricultural uses. A zoning bylaw application has been submitted in order to redesignate it to a number of different zones. Next slide. Here As a general idea of what the zoning bylaw amendment is proposed to be, there is R1F 11 and R1F 11.6. Those are for single detached dwellings with minimum lot widths of 11 and 11.6 meters respectively. There's R3C, which is for townhouses, R3E 5.5, which means townhouses with widths of 5.5, maximum widths of 5.5 meters. There's R4A, which is for higher density. There's institutional use, and OS, which is for the open space or the valley lands there, and F for the floodplain, and that's typically used for stormwater management ponds. Next slide. This application is going to be evaluated on a number of documents that are from our planning framework, including the provincial policy statement, growth plan for Greater Golden Horseshoe, Region Appeal Official Plan, City of Brampton Official Plan, and Highway 427 Secondary Plan, as well as the Block Plan. Staff will also ensure that the principles of the 2040 vision are being upheld. Next slide. Staff are working on a few issues to be resolved with the applicant. Number one, that the applicant will provide some additional information about blocks 120 and 121, just to demonstrate how these blocks will be coordinated with the lands to the south. Issue two, there's lanes A and B, which are just east of Clarkway Drive. They run parallel to it. Those aren't permitted anymore due to servicing requirements. Number three, there's a potential for an increased density for the area that's highlighted in purple there, just east of Clarkway Drive. And number four, a public road may need to be required in the area just south of Street A and west of the stormwater management pond there. Next slide. Next steps. So the notice of complete application was sent out on February 18th. It was circulated to all the city departments and agencies and external departments and agencies. The notice of the public meeting went out on February 24th, and here we are today at the public meeting in person and digitally. Staff will continue to review the applications and comments from both the public and our technical comments. It will be advanced eventually to a report that will go to council for a decision, and issues raised will be addressed as part of the recommendation report. A letter will be sent out to anybody who has provided information at this during this time or any other time in between now and the recommendation report being written, and responses will be provided as part of the recommendation report. Last slide. The report associated with tonight's meeting will be available online, as well as the presentation materials. Final report will be posted on the city's website in advance of the future meeting. Again, my name is Stephen Dykstra. I'm the development planner for this, and the applicant contact information is for Mark Condello, who works for GSAI, and his information is up there as well. That's it. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything for you.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, do we have any delegations?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there are no delegations, no correspondence, but representatives from Glenn Schnarr and Associates are present should committee have any questions.
Thank you very much. Members of the committee, are there any questions of clarification? I see none, so I do have a motion moved by Councillor Singh to approve the staff report recommendations. And we'll take it as read. Is anyone opposed? I see none, so statutory public meeting is now adjourned. Item 6.1, City Clerk, are there any delegations?
There are none, Mr. Chair, and that item, the related item has been added to the consent motion. So the next item would be item 12, Councillor question period.
Okay, my apologies. Members of the committee, are there any questions regarding today's planning agenda? Councillor Palashi, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I noticed that the area councillors weren't on the cover page of the application. Usually it's the area councillors that are on the opening page for each public application.
So the staff, anyone on staff want to respond?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, and through to Councillor Pleshy. Councillor Pleshy, are you referring to the first page that was on the slide deck for the presentation of tonight's item that was presented?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and Councillor, apologize for that. You know, that is something that we really didn't strategically do to intend insofar as removing the councillors' names. That's something that I would like to see on the front page. You might have noticed that the character, or really the look of the slide deck has changed from a couple of meetings ago. We went through just recently a modernization to really improve and update the look and feel of the slides, so to modernize them. It must have been a really mistake made just with respect to the councillors noted there.
I see them on this page, but they weren't on the other one that was presented.
So through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps I could help that I think when committee considered this item, there usually is a bit of an introduction by the committee chair, and I guess because there are no delegations and no interest from the public on this particular item to delegate tonight, the floor was passed over to Stephen to proceed with the presentation on tonight's item. So we didn't proceed with the title slide that you see on the screen. We went right to the presentation slide. So that's why it appeared to be omitted, but it is in the package. And this package of material is posted online with the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Peter. Thanks, Al.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And so I don't see any further questions, so we'll go on to public question period. Any questions from members of the public, City Clerk?
For you, Mr. Chair, just bear with me. I'm just checking right now. And there are none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next item is adjournment, and I have a motion moved by Councilor Vicente to adjourn tonight's meeting. Our next meeting is April 25th at 7 p.m. Is there anyone opposed? I see none, and the motion carries. Thank you very much to staff and everyone who attended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of